Well, it's happening. I know a lot of people were afraid of this. They were saying that, oh, no, we're going to be forced to take the vaccine and we're going to lose our freedoms. If we don't, we might lose our jobs, not just our freedoms, our ability to travel or go to concerts. Some people say, I could live with that for a short period of time. But if my job requires me to take the vaccine, what am I going to do? I hear this question a lot. And unfortunately, that day looks like it has come to a New York restaurant waitress who would not get the COVID-19 vaccine, and she was fired for refusing the vaccine. Here's the story from the New York Times. It says New York restaurant fires waitress who wouldn't get COVID-19 vaccine. Bonnie Jacobson, 34 years old, said she was not necessarily opposed to getting vaccinated, but wanted to study the potential effect on fertility first. She says right here that after nearly a year of the pandemic decimating New York City restaurant industry, forcing thousands of businesses to close permanently, costing tens of thousands of people their jobs, right? This month brought a glimmer of optimism. Limited indoor dining started again, and restaurant workers, including servers, cooks, and those who make deliveries, have joined the growing list of New York State residents eligible to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. But at one Brooklyn restaurant, the changes have touched off a clash between the owner and a waitress who was fired on Monday after she said she resisted getting vaccinated out of concern that doing so could hurt her chances of becoming pregnant. Over the weekend, the restaurant, the Red Hook Tavern, required that its employees get vaccinated and then terminated the waitress, Bonnie Jacobson, when she asked for time to study the vaccine's possible effects on fertility. She says, quote, I totally support the vaccine, Ms. Jacobson, 34, said in an interview on Wednesday. She added, if it wasn't for this one thing, I would probably get it. The restaurant owner would not comment on Ms. Jacobson's case specifically, but he said the business's policies had been revised to make it clearer to employees how they could seek an exemption from getting vaccinated. So they would have to go and get an exemption, probably from a doctor, to say that they don't need to get the vaccine or they're exempt from it or whatever. Ms. Jacobson's experience comes as the restaurant industry, whose future is critical to New York's recovery and really to the United States recovery, struggles as it overcomes the pandemic's heavy toll. So, I want to also, it says right here that says the vaccines that were developed by Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna are now being distributed. They were not tested on pregnant women, but they have not shown any harmful effects in animal studies or produced evidence that they affect fertility. Last month, the WHO advised pregnant women not to use the vaccines unless they were at high risk because of underlying health conditions or potential exposure to the coronavirus. But the organization also said that, quote, based on what we know about this kind of vaccine, we don't have any specific reason to believe there will be specific risks that would outweigh the benefits of vaccination for pregnant women, unquote. So, okay, few things here. First of all, this is an experimental drug. This is not actually FDA approved. These vaccines are authorized for emergency use only. That means that the FDA says, you know what? We don't know all of the side effects of these vaccines. We have not studied them extensively in order to give FDA approval. That is why we're not approving these via the FDA approval process. We don't have enough information. However, we think that because of the nature of the pandemic, the number of people who are dying, that it is wise to allow an expedited use of the vaccines and say, look, it's risky. We don't know all the side effects, but the side effect of getting this disease and potentially passing away is worse. So it's better maybe to take the vaccine than to not. However, somebody at 34 years old, there is no case to be made that the vaccine is better for somebody at 34 years old or younger to even get. They're not even giving it to kids under the age of 18 or 16, depending on the vaccine at this point. And there really isn't any need to be quite honest about it. They've told us that at this point, the vaccines don't show to necessarily stop the spread of the virus. You can have the vaccine and still spread it. That's why they say you have to wear a mask and socially distance, because you could still give it to someone else who has not had the chance to be vaccinated yet. They have told us specifically that these vaccines are more for our own personal protection. They're not for stopping the spread of the virus. So what does it matter to you if I choose to get the vaccine or not? It is none of your business. If I don't get vaccinated and I choose to risk it and get the virus and play my odds that at my age, it's probably not going to affect me much. Maybe I've already had it and don't know it. Maybe I will get it and I'll feel like crap for a week, like I've had a terrible flu, maybe that'll be my situation. But the chance for me to die or have serious complications at my age are really, really, really low. And the younger you are, the lower those chances even are. So it really shouldn't be your employer's business whether or not you choose to get the vaccine. That is not going to make the employment, the workplace safe. If you all get the vaccine, the argument of the employer is, well, I want my restaurant to be safe for patrons. Okay, it won't be. Not even with this vaccine. You could vaccine every single one of your employees. You can give them you can vaccinate every single one of them. What good will that do? If they could potentially still carry the virus around, they could spread it to your patrons who have not been vaccinated. So that is not actually a real argument here. The scientists, the doctors, the vaccine companies, they've told us all of this. So where is the logic in an employer saying, you have to have the vaccine in order to come to work? There is actually no logic in that, because you're still not protecting your patrons. Now, you could say, well, it's because I don't want you to get sick, and so I don't want to have to pay for your time off. I don't think that's legal. So I think they would have a challenge in court on that, just for them to say, well, you got to do everything. I'm requiring that you eat certain foods and exercise a certain amount, and that you stay away from sick people. I require it because I don't want to have to pay for your sick leave. I don't know if they can really do that. So there's really no logic behind the sheer, the logic of the employer to say you cannot come to work without a vaccine. There is no logic in any of these vaccines right now showing that. For any of these employers to say that should not be acceptable in our society right now. If we're truly following the science, that should be unacceptable to us. We should say, no, this vaccine is specifically for our own use, for us to decide whether or not we want to risk it or protect ourselves. It's a personal decision. It's about whether or not I'm going to get sick, if I'm going to risk getting sick. And it's a decision between myself, my family, and my physician, period. So there's no good reason for this employer to have done this. And secondly, she's right. We don't know the side effects of these vaccines. And she says at 34, her and her husband would like to have another child. And she's afraid that because these vaccines are new and untested, and it's a new technology never used on humans before, the mRNA vaccines, even though they are hopefully safe, the scientists obviously hope they're safe. They're not rolling them out. The scientists, maybe the business people that are funding it might not care, right? But the scientists themselves, they actually want to create a breakthrough working medicine. They're not trying to screw us over or give us a medicine with side effects and stuff like that. They're truly trying their best, but they don't know all of the side effects. And many vaccines and many medicines have been made with very good intentions, with the best hopes, and unfortunately didn't work, or there were too many severe side effects. And so I think it's, for any person, especially at certain ages, if you are really very low risk of having any serious complications or death from the virus, I think it's perfectly within reason to say, I don't think I want to take an experimental medicine at my age. I don't think it's necessary for me, and I don't want to do it. I'd rather get the virus because I'm probably not going to feel it if I get it. The older you get, obviously, the odds shift. And that is something that you, as you age, should have to make a decision about. Do you feel comfortable risking it? Or do you want to are you going to risk getting the virus? Or are you going to risk long-term side effects? Now, if you are already in your 80s or 90s, you're maybe not so worried about long-term side effects of medicines at that point. You might just say, hey, listen, odds are if I get that virus, it's not going to be so great. I'd rather risk it with this experimental medicine, cross my fingers and hope. Fair enough. But this should be a very personal decision for all of us. And it should be assessed on an individual basis, not something that's forced on us by employers. It makes no sense to even force this on people for travel restrictions or attending concerts for the exact same reasons. It's not stopping the spread of the virus. They're showing more and more evidence of this, that it doesn't seem to stop the spread. It just stops the severity of the effects of the illness for most people at this point. For others, it maybe not so much, it's individual, but for most, it seems to diminish the severity of the virus. It is more like a medicine, not so much like a preemptive medicine, not so much of a vaccine. And it should be something that each individual decides on their own whether or not they want to take. So I hope this is the last story like this that we hear about, but I doubt it will be. I'm sure more and more employers will say you either take it or you don't come to work. Now, the military is being required to take the vaccine, but that's slightly more understandable, only because the government doesn't like it when their soldiers get sick, right? So even though a normal employer, they don't like it when we get sick, but it's kind of out of their control. The military has a little bit more of you really can't get sick because we're at war, right? So they're always kind of pumped with more drugs than the rest of us anyway when they travel around the world. But definitely, I think for us regular civilians, I don't think anyone should be forcing these vaccines on us, especially an experimental drug that has not even received FDA approval yet. And that's just not being discussed enough. It just seems like it's all, people are acting like, oh, no, it's approved and you're just anti-science if you don't want to take it. They're saying that this girl is anti-science for not wanting to take the vaccine, that she's believing it might cause fertility problems. That's just anti-science. You don't know the science. Nobody knows the science. So we should be honest about that. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate you. Please be sure to sign up for my email newsletter. I do have a newsletter that's going to be coming out soon that is going to be about a lot of the information that is underground that you're not seeing really up in the normal world anymore, because a lot of things are being censored and silenced. So be sure to sign up for my email newsletter by going to my website, KimIverson.com. Also, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, you want to send me stories, you can email me, Kim@KimIverson.com. And otherwise, if you'd love to support the show, I do run on independent donations. This is a fully independent show. So if you'd like to support the show, there are links down below that will allow you to do that. I appreciate you very much. Thank you so much. I will be back tomorrow night, guys. Have a good night.